Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday, it's November 8th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And looking at our weekly chart real quickly, you can see that not much change today. We traded a little higher, but backed off that. It looks like we spent most of the day in a range. We kind of sold off, but then recovered a good bit of that. Um, so looks like we're just kind of working sideways here as we try to get back to the trend line. We've got resistance across here. Looks like it's coming into effect here. So we'll see if we push through that and we should push through. Prices should at least attempt to hit that trend line, I would think. So we'll just have to see what happens. You can see we're really, we rallied really strongly, but we've just kind of consolidated since then. Prices aren't selling off particularly yet, but they're not going much higher either. So in fact, we closed down slightly today. So I believe this is, yeah, 11. Okay, we hadn't opened back up. It's not 5 yet. I was getting confused there, but we hadn't opened back up. It's not 5 o'clock yet. The market's currently closed. So, but you see it. There it is on the daily chart. Let's flip over to the 2000 tick chart and take a look at that. Not a lot of trades today, unfortunately, but it is what it is. But let's take a, and here's a look at the big picture. We started off, looked like we were going to trend higher, got a break, new high, ran down, got a break, new low. Then we had a little correction in there and then started another leg down. And you can see we got almost a perfect measured move. And then we rallied from there. And I didn't measure this one, but there's your first move. And then that looks like your second move. So you would look for a measured move. And we went a little further than that. Um, this market just doesn't really want to sell off again. It's rallied really strongly, though. Lots of indecision in here. Um, and not a lot of chance to catch this move down, unfortunately. Same thing back to the upside, just not a lot of opportunity to catch it. So it is what it is. But let's it won't take long. There's not many trades here. We'll we'll zoom in here and move through these pretty quickly. And something I wanted to discuss real quickly. Somebody posted on the forum and asked if I would go. There's a couple of things really, and they kind of interrelated. A couple of people wanted me to go more into bar by bar. Understand this before we go through these trades. You don't need to look at it bar by. I mean, if you're looking to try to look down to that level, you're on the wrong track. I don't look at it bar by bar, so that's the reason I don't do any bar by bar training. If somebody tells you you need to study it bar by bar and learn and go over it bar by bar, then I think you're being misled. Um, Really, what you want to do, context is everything. Context is the king of trading. This chart speaks a language. Now, if you go back to the daily chart and you look at it, it's a little harder to know where you're going longer term. But when you zoom in on the intraday chart, the 2000 tick chart, this chart speaks a language, and it's pretty. I wouldn't say pretty easy, but it's relatively easy to figure out where prices are going in the short term. Like here, we don't know for sure they're going lower, but if we break lower, we're probably going to make another leg down. And that's what happens. So you have to wait for the breakout. And unfortunately, you don't get a chance to really trade this. But once you get a close outside and a new low, hey, we're probably going to get a reversal here or at least a correction. And sure enough, we get a reversal. So if you understand how to read this chart, you can understand and figure out where prices are going uh, with a high degree of accuracy for the next 15, 30 minutes, maybe even an hour. And that's what you want to, and that's all you need to exploit this thing. So the other thing is figuring out where the key entry points. What are key entry points? Trend lines, support and resistance lines. All a trend line is an angled support and resistance line. It's just like the highs and the lows. It's just angled. And so the next step is you got to figure out where prices are going, find the key entry points, and wait on prices to come back to them and give you a setup. So once you know where prices are going, you found the key entry points, then you're waiting on prices to get to those key entry points and give you a setup, one of the setups we teach. And once again, so we're looking, when prices are way down here, I'm just waiting on them to come back here and give me a setup. Sometimes you get one, sometimes you don't. You just keep waiting. Once we were flat here, I'm waiting for prices to come back and give me a setup, and we got one right there. So once you get your setup, then you have to wait on your signal bar. And unless it's a very advanced trade where we don't care about a signal bar, which is only reversals and failed second entries, most of you shouldn't be trading those anyways. So the only bar we really care about is the signal bar. That's the only time I start looking at it bar by bar is when I get to the signal bar. Otherwise, I'm just looking for the pattern, which you don't really need to sit there and watch it bar by bar. As long as you get a second entry or a triple test or a lower high or high or low or whatever the trades are that we've taught you, then you're just waiting on the signal bar. You get the signal bar, it completes, put your order in, and that's it. So there's no bar by bar. You don't need bar by bar. And then somebody else mentioned that wanted me to go into more detail about each trade. Well, I tell you exactly why I take each trade. So if you understand what I just explained, then you should understand the trade as I explain it. Because I'm telling you this is a triple test, or this is a failed second entry, or this is a lower high, or this is a second entry short, or whatever. That's all you need to know. I mean, if you understand the rest of what we do, I think what happens is people think it's deeper and more complicated than that when it's not. And I get it, because most of you have picked up stuff from learning from all over the internet, and it's all wrong. None of that stuff is right. I'm not saying everything you've learned is wrong, but I bet you 90% of it is incorrect. And it's just because people don't know how to trade. And once you understand how to read this chart, and you can follow what I just explained and do it, it's like having your own ATM with unlimited funds. It really is. I mean, it's not really that simple. The hard part is learning to read the chart and learning to do what we do every day. Once you can, after the fact, you can get on this chart and find all this and find the trades, you're only halfway there. That's the easier part, honestly. The hard part is learning to do it in real time. So, but before you can learn to do it in real time, you've got to learn to be able to take this blank chart with nothing on it and find everything on here, just like I pointed it out here, and find these trades. And once you can do that, guess what? As you start to study your trades and do this every day, you'll slowly start to see it happen in real time, just unfold right in front of you. And it's like a light goes off, and suddenly you go, oh, wow. Why didn't I see this before? Why didn't I understand this before? I think what happens is people are looking too deeply. People think it's much harder than what it is. People think there's some magic bullet. There's no indicator. There's no special software. There's no magical numbers. There's no horoscopes. All that mojo, humbo, jumbo, whatever you want to call it, is just a waste of your time. None of that stuff works consistently. The only way you can make money as a trader is to learn to read this chart and be able to find these key entry points and then find the setups and then trade them. There's no other way. And anybody, I'm almost willing to bet that anybody that makes money every day consistently as a day trader, even if they don't call it price action trading, even if they don't realize they've learned to understand price movements and how prices react, they've learned it just through trial and error by doing it long enough. And like I said, they may not call it price action trading. They may not realize exactly that they've learned price movements. And that's the other thing. You have to understand price movements, because they do not move by common sense. But that's where our rules, that's why we sell our manual. The rules help you to understand price movements. So that's what those rules are for. There's no rules that tell you exactly when to take a trade or anything like that. But we have a set of rules that help you understand price movements. And one of our rules is just like on a range. Never trade a breakout. Most breakouts fail. Even this breakout, it took a little while, but it failed. It came back, it failed. It broke out a little bit up here. What happened? It failed and went lower. What happens when you get a break or an overshoot of a channel? You get an overshoot, it usually leads to a break, and it could lead to a reversal, but usually it'll lead to a retest. And then you got a little trend down and another trend back up. Same thing here. You got a trend up, a close outside, new high. Our rules teach you how to do that. here you got a trend down, close outside, a couple legs to a new low, and then it got a little correction in there, and you got another trend down. So make sure you understand that. If you don't understand anything else, you don't need to know anything bar by bar. You don't need anything but a basic explanation of every one of these trades, because the other part is learning how to do this. And I don't teach you how to do all this other stuff here in the videos. Go to our website. It's all there. The idea on the video is just to show you the trade, so as you're learning, you can figure out if you're getting into the right direction and learning the right and figuring out the right things. That's all this video is for. It's not to teach people how to trade. I'm not teaching you how to find these trends and how to find these channels. I'm just explaining the trades it's set up using our strategy, and all of that's on the website. Go to the website. It's all there for free. You don't have to buy anything. It's harder to put together and it's harder to figure out than it is if you've got the manual that gives you the directions and kind of sets you on the right track. But it's all there. So don't waste your time trying to figure out bar by bar. And there's 500 copycats out there teaching my stuff. All of them came from my site at some point or another. And some of them understand the basics and all this stuff, but they hadn't put it all together yet, or they wouldn't be out there doing that. They'd be trading and making money and going and having fun every day. This is not fun doing all this teaching. I enjoy it probably more than some people because I'm addicted to trading. I love everything about trading, and I'm a workaholic. Been telling people that for 25 years. And that's why I keep doing this. If I was 30 years old, would I be doing this all day, every day? No. I'd make my money in the morning and trade a couple of hours. I'd get in my car and I'd get the heck out of here, and I'd go enjoy my kids, my family, my hobbies, whatever. But, my kids are grown now. My kids are on their own. So I don't have to, I don't get a chance to spend time with them. They're leading their own lives and so forth. Of course, I still have my wife, of course, but I spend time with her every evening, and I spend every weekend with her. I don't work weekends anymore. That was one of my commitments I made to her. You probably notice when you send me emails, you rarely hear from me on the weekend because I have to have a couple of days off. And I trade, I trade no later than lunch every day, and I spend all the rest of the day doing this teaching part of it, which is more than I ever committed to or ever wanted to do. But I committed to it, and I'm sticking to it, and I've got a deadline, a retirement period. I know when that's coming. It's not too far away. It's not tomorrow. It's not next year, but it's not too far away. And that's really all I'll say. I've hinted around about that a few times. My retirement is coming soon. And I'm going to quit doing this every day. I might trade a couple hours every day. I might spend 30 minutes on the website or something and keep that rolling. But I'm not going to be answering emails all day. I'm not going to be coming and doing videos every day anymore. I'm going to do my work, and I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to go enjoy my life. That's why I became a trader, to get away from the corporate grind, to be home for my kids. And it was a godsend for probably half of my kids' lives. Not quite my son, but definitely half of my daughter's life before she was grown and gone. But my son, I at least got to enjoy his last few years of high school and so forth. Playing, and he was into sports like me and played ball, and I got to see all his ball games that I never saw before I was a trader, because I was always out of town, traveling, on a plane here, in a hotel there. I used to love to. I couldn't wait to the end of the day to hear my son call me and tell me about his ball games. And I'm getting a little emotional here about it because it was a tough time for me. But that's what trading did for me. It gave me that freedom. It can give you that freedom. But you got to let go and understand that it's not as deep as most of you are making it. It's simple, really. It's super simple. But it takes a lot of hard work, and it takes a lot of experience. This is a skill. It's like any skill. You can't just learn the skill and go out and be a professional. You have to hone it and practice it and get repetition every day. And so that's what makes this so hard. Spend the time learning to find everything you see on this chart after the fact. Once you get there and you can do that consistently every day, then you're halfway there. The other half is just to start doing it every day in real time and watching it slowly come in real time, and you'll get better and better at it. And eventually, you'll be able to do it, and one day that light will go off, and you'll say, why did I make this so hard? I still to this day ask myself, why did it take me so long to figure this out? Because it's not that difficult. I say that, I'm not telling you it's easy to learn this, so don't mix up my words here, because if anybody tells you trading is easy, they're lying to you, because it takes a lot of years of experience. Learning what we do to find this stuff on the chart is not that hard. It just takes a little hard work and practice and study every day and watching the videos and comparing your work to it. But eventually you'll be able to come on, get a chart at the end of the day and mark it up and make it look just like mine. Probably, if it's not exactly like mine, I bet you'll find it within 90% accurate, same as me. Your trend line might be slightly different, but you'll probably come up with the same results, because sometimes I can draw the trend line multiple ways and you still come up with the same results. They're not, if they're right, if they hold prices accurately and consistently. And if they don't, then they're probably not right. But just make sure you understand, you don't need to look at this bar by bar. That's a waste of your time and effort. You're studying the wrong thing. What you want to be studying is understanding price movement, so understanding the rules, and then trying to find these trends and key entry points, basically, is what I call them. They're trend line, support, and resistance. They're all support and resistance. And you need to be able to find those, and then you need to be able to understand the setups and see them, and then find the signal bar. I mean, I'm not looking at bar by bar. I've never looked at it that close. I'm just waiting on the prices to get to the key entry point, and then I'm looking for a setup. I'm still not looking at it bar by bar. I'm just looking at maybe a handful of bars, but I'm not looking that closely. But when that signal bar starts to form, that's when I hone in on that bar. And I'm watching that bar like a hawk, and if it sets up, I'm taking my trade. If it doesn't, I should start waiting again. It's that simple. Most of your time is, if you're a really good and disciplined trader, most of your time is spent waiting. Amateurs are looking for a trade on every swing. They don't have any idea. They're looking for a trade on every swing, and they'll get some of them right, and they'll get most of them wrong. Professionals are waiting on prices to get to certain places, these key entry points, and then they're waiting on the setup, and then they're waiting on the signal bar to tell them it's time to go. It's time to jump in. That's the difference. Discipline and patience and waiting, and not looking for a trade on every swing. If you're sitting here watching prices go down and every swing you're looking for an entry, you're way too deep on it, and you're going to have lots of headaches and lost trades and bad days. Relax. Find your key entry points. Wait on prices. We always enter on corrections in a downtrend. We always enter off the support and resistance on ranges. Or we get a trend within and we wait for the trend line. If it's big enough to have a trend in it like this, you trade this trend back up. That's all we do. We don't look at it bar by bar. We don't analyze it that deeply. You only analyze it deeply when you're waiting on your signal bar and prices have come back to your key entry point. Your key entry point's confirmed. You're waiting on the setup. You see the second entry, or you see the triple test, or you see the lower high, and you get a good signal bar and you put your order in, and the rest is wait and see. If you did your homework and you read the chart right and your timing's correct, you're probably going to have a quick, easy scalp, and you might get a runner on it. If you're wrong, you're going to get stopped out pretty quickly, and you'll know, and that's why we sim trade until we get good at this and get lots of, you've got to learn to trust your reads and trust the setups, and you do that through sim trading. Never trade live until you've proven you can do it on the simulator. Then you won't have all those headaches, and you won't be going home sad or going to bed sad or blowing your accounts and all that. So anyway, I didn't mean, it's 20 minutes, and I think it's a good conversation that we needed to have, because I think we've got a lot of new people that are all on the wrong track. So listen to this. Go back and listen to me explain this over and over until it makes sense, because that's how you do it. It's not bar by bar. It's not learning the patterns. The patterns are all over the place, but they only work if you understand the price movements and where prices are going. You can see second entries all over this chart, but if you're trying to go short on second entries here, you're going to have a bunch of losers. You need to be looking for second entries to the long side here. Same thing here. If you're looking for long second entries here, you're going to be losing. You're looking for short second entries. So I hope that's clear, but let's zoom in here. Let's go through the trades. There's not many, so this video won't be too much longer. 7 o'clock came right in here. There's a second entry here, but it's just not a very good setup. The second entry triggered when it broke above this little 2-bar matching high here. These bars are matching, so if this would have broken lower and traded up, maybe you could trade the engulfing bar, but there's still a lot of stem. I'd probably skip that and wait for that to close, and it's just got too much stem at the top. We went on up, we come back, it just turns up on the first entry in an odd place. There is a higher low here, but it's not a tradable higher low. We're right back into the top. It would have worked, but you just sit patient. That's why you just sit patient and wait. And finally we come back to the key entry point. We get a close outside, and we try to go lower once, we try to go lower twice, so we got a failure there. If it breaks above that, it's a failure, and I like going along there. It's a little congested. There's plenty of room here to get out, but it's still a little congested, so I marked it green. It's still not a great setup. There's a higher low here, but you got to go long right into a double top and right near the high, so it could go just a little bit and turn down on you. So again, not a very good place to enter. Finally, it comes up here and it tests that once, twice, 3 times. It breaks higher, fails, turns down, gives you a big bearish bar on a triple test. That's where I like going short. And now your trend's down. This one's played out. You got to close outside, new high, and it's turned down. This is clearly a failed second entry long. I like this one. I almost made this one green because there is some support here, but if it breaks lower there, it's probably going to drop on down. And sure enough, this was probably this was a really good trade. It moved really fast. Then it corrects and comes back and tests the breakout area and turns down again. But that's just a first entry with not much room. First entry, and now you're getting too far away from the EMA because it's probably going to reverse and bounce. And it does. There's a higher low here, but it's right into the EMA. Not a great spot. There is a second entry short here, but there's no signal bar, so you skip it. Yeah, it's tempting. You want to go short. It works, but if you take that every time, you're going to get burned a bunch. This is a lower high here, but not a good signal bar. And then finally, you get another second entry, but again, no signal bar. So you just keep waiting. Turns out that it's a great move. Somebody actually sold this right here. I guess it's just a first entry. Maybe they traded it as a failure. Somebody sent me this, but it broke higher and turned down. They traded it on the engulfing bar, and then it turns around on them and stops them out. Because it never triggered if you waited for this bar. So they had to have traded it on the engulfing bar, and that's just not a good choice right there. It is right off the key entry point. But don't try to sneak in early. That's another good learning experience. Don't try to sneak in early. Wait for when this closed. If it would have broke lower, yeah, you could. I mean, maybe you trade that. I usually would not trade engulfing bars if it's a doji looking bar, has lots of stem like that. And that's enough reason not to trade that, and that gets you out of this loser, and you can't really take the second entry. And then we're just chopping along. I don't see anything here I like. Too close to the support here. It's a lower high. Maybe there's enough room to scalp out there, but it's really pressing it. I mean, there's barely enough, but you've already got a close outside and a new low. A lot of times you'll make 2 legs down, but you can see here it didn't quite go 2 legs. It would have been enough to get out, but you don't know that ahead of time. It comes back and then it gives you a triple test and a second entry short with a nice signal bar. That's where you go short. It even gives you a lower high here that's got a little more room. I didn't mark this one, but that one probably should at least be green. I didn't like it because it looks sideways, and that's kind of the midline right there. Originally looked like. It turns out the midline's here and the bottom of this is down here. But it's like a 2-tiered, and there's usually a midline in both tiers. And so I didn't really like that one in real time. It tries to come again and gives you another failure, and you could probably argue, hey, there's a triple test, but look, it's just too congested. It would have worked, but it's not worth taking. And it just chopping around here, same thing. I don't see any longs. And finally, you get another second entry here, which would have been a great setup, except no signal bar, so no trade. Then it runs down, it bounces down here, and it bounces several times. But again, it's congested. There's no real good signal bar. And there is possibly here, but just look how congested that is. And it's right at the right into the EMA, which you don't really worry about the EMA too much in sideways stuff, but you can see it did affect it a little bit there, so you need to be aware of it here. And you know, if you took that trade, it works. It's another one that's you might make green, but in real time I just didn't like it because of all the congestion. It's easier to say, hey, yeah, it would have worked here after the fact, maybe you should have taken it, than it would be in real time. In real time, I didn't like it. I didn't mark it. And you can't go short here into the support. There's not really a setup anyway. I try to do a little breakout pullback, and that does really confirm the trend line there, but you're going short at the very low of the move. Never a good idea, even though it works. And then this is actually a second entry short. I didn't mark it because, again, it looks congested, but it breaks low. Actually, it's not a second entry. It broke higher first and then turned down, and those are two bar matching. So no, it's just a first entry. You just can't take that. And you're not back to the EMA either, although it is the first break of the trend line, now new low. So now you'll probably get a reversal at some point. Sure enough, it reverses. This is the one that's tempting, but it's very aggressive. But if you catch that, you catch the low of the day. And that's what I'm always telling you about these breakouts, especially when it's moved, a measured move like that. If you recognize that and you want to be a little aggressive, that's the place to do it, although it will fail on you. But it's only 5 ticks. And you got a lot of room back to the EMA. Generally, I like a better signal bar. I mean, that's a very bullish bar because it traded down and it closed back up high. But I like to see a little better signal bar than that, to be honest. So, but anyway, it runs back up, and then we're just chopping sideways. Again, this one's a triple test, so semi interesting, but it's too congested, and there's not a lot of room back. So just got to skip it. 2 sideways, runs up. It looks like you get an overshoot here, and you do get a triple test. So maybe you take that trade just to ride it back to the EMA. Okay, I had a slight interruption. I think we were talking about this triple test here. You got to be careful with these, but prices had not almost always when prices break through support or resistance, they come back and test it. And so that was the main target here, and you can see they kind of overshot it and tested. It's just a retest, and it looked like it was going to sell off, and it ended up gaining traction and going higher again. Of course, you'd still expect a retest on this, most likely. Sometimes, like I said, when you get an overshoot, it'll just reverse. But if it's been a pretty good trend, you'll probably still get an attempt at a retest, even if it doesn't retest it. So 2 legs down. There's a second entry here, but signal bar is no good. And you do get a break of this channel and a new low. So if that had been a good signal bar, that would have been a great place to probably go long there. But you do get a higher low here. It pulls back. It's moved a little bit, but I still like this because of the retest. It breaks lower and fails and turns up. I like that one on the engulfing bar, even though it's somewhat of a doji. It's 4 ticks, so it's very low risk that way. If you wait till it closes, then you're taking on a lot more risk here. It still works, but I don't like it as much that way. Again, if this would have been a bigger bar, I'd probably say wait for this to close. But since it's 4 ticks, you just got to roll with that one. So runs up, makes a new high, chopping sideways. Maybe it turns down. This is why you can't go short into support. Look what happens here if you went short right there. It's 1 tick lower, and boom, it reverses on you. So that's why you got to be careful. It's really not a triple test either. There's a lower high here, and it just looks sideways, and you got all that support. Just sit tight and see what happens, and it ends up going higher. Pulls back, Bounces off the trend line again. It gives you a higher second entry. As long as you got room to get out there, I'd take that one. You got to be a little careful because you've already had your break in a new high, but most of the time you'll get 2 legs on the retest. And you got 1 leg there, and you're working on another one. And you can see you're not anywhere quite. Doesn't mean you'll get it either, but that gives you a little more incentive to try to go longer, go long there. Plus, you also had this first leg up with the correction, and so so you're getting a target very similar to both places for a second leg up. And then we're just chopping along. You don't want to go short there, really. You get a failure here, but it's on the wrong side of the EMA, and you're just chopping, and there's support there again, so you can't go short into that support, and it breaks lower, and guess what? It fails. That's another one that's a little tempting, because there is some support across there too, as you see if you pull that across. So there's some support there from earlier, and you're a little ways away from the EMA. So that's another one if you want to be aggressive, maybe. And again, it's 4 ticks, so it's very low risk. Those are the kind that you can sometimes be a little aggressive on. There's a higher low here, but it's right into this congestion support. There's a reversal here, but you're not really looking for a reversal going sideways. And it's getting late in the day, and then suddenly you get a break, and it moves to a new high and then sells off into the 5 o'clock hour or 4 o'clock hour or whatever. So not a lot of trades today. But yes, it's a long video today. I apologize, but I think what we talked about earlier was important for a lot of people to hear, and people needed to hear it. So if you need to, go back and listen to that over and over a few times until it all is clear to you and makes good sense, because there's gold there. There really is, and it's free. You know, and it's the real truth about trading. All this bar by bar, all this talking more about the trades, all you need to know, you need to learn all this other on your own, and all you need to know is where the setup is and what kind it is. And I explain that every day, and I'll try to give more details where there's more to give, but there's really not any more details to give, because as I said, I'm not trying to teach you how to read the chart here. It's impossible to do that. What I'm trying to do is help you as you're learning to read the chart to compare yours to mine and see if you're getting it right. See if you're finding the key entry points. See if you're finding the setups in the trades. And if you are, you're on the right track. If you're not, you got more work to do. And yours may not be exactly like mine, but as long as you're getting close and as long as you're understanding when I'm explaining it and showing it to you, if you understand it, then you're on the right track. And you don't need any bar by bar. You don't need a lot of more details about each trade than what I give you, because that's all that's important, is what type trade it is, why I liked it, and why I took it. And if you understand that, you've got it. You've got the biggest part of it. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow, and I think today was Wednesday, right? Yeah, tomorrow's Thursday. It'll be wrapping up another week. Man, the weeks just keep flying by. We're going to be halfway through November before you can blink an eye. It seemed like the first was just yesterday. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll see you tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.